discussing on navigating payments through COVID-19 and beyond with none other than Mr. Ganesh Kumar. He was here last week. Good afternoon, Mr. Ganesh Kumar. How are you?
Good afternoon. Fine, thanks. I hope I'll be able to make up for the bad quality of the communication link last time. So
happens, sir. Not a problem, sir. Okay. Since we met last on this forum, has India's economic and payment activities seen any significant changes? In brief, you can just tell us.
Since the last discussion that we had through this medium, there's not been much of a significant change in the payments landscape, except that for those who are in the payment space and who are part of this, maybe just a couple of aspects which the Reserve Bank has actually been working on and have communicated. One is that there have been some timelines which were given earlier for those who are already in the space, some for whom the authorization coming to an end, some for whom they have applied, etc. So I think on a case-to-case basis and for certain sectors, the Reserve Bank, on account of the pandemic, has given an extension, which is some good news. The Reserve Bank is also working out on certain policy perspectives now that the operational aspects are behind them insofar as availability is concerned. So some of these will, I think, I guess that very soon we'll be hearing from the Reserve Bank these. So that is what it is. In terms of availability of payment systems, thanks to the efforts put in by all the payment system providers, operators, network service providers, aggregators, intermediaries, technology service providers, the list is long. The country has been able to actually have a rather smooth sailing, which is a matter of satisfaction.
Absolutely. I think that was wonderful. And I think many thanks should also go to you, because you are one of the key initiators of these things. So once again, a warm welcome to all our participants across this EPS platform, YouTube and Twitter. Your participation is a strong support for our strategy to engage subject matter experts into thoughtful and incisive discussions that are beneficial to all the participants. With many more people participating in these discussions, we are getting stronger in a resolve to fight the virus. So today, as we speak, let's give it a thought. Also goes out to the Indian medical and police warriors who are fighting a war to prevent the spread of virus. They are fighting for us. So to keep us safe, let's help them by staying safe, please. Besides this platform with healthy debates and enriching our knowledge, EPS is also a proud sponsor of Roti Bank, which provides food to the poor and needy. So let's get into the discussion with Sri Ganesh Kumar. Sri Ganesh Kumar has vast experience working in RBI and played a key role in the introduction of various electronic payment systems in India. He is currently the chairman of the Indian Financial Technology and Allied Services, more popularly known as IFTAS. Sir Ganesh Kumar,
yes,
deepening digital payments to encourage digitization of payment and enhance financial inclusion was a committee that was formed by RBI under Nandan Nilekani. And I think there was some 73 odd recommendations given. So any good recommendation that you would like to highlight now briefly, which is good during this pandemic period?
Okay. Well, all recommendations given by a committee of this type are really good, so there's no problem on that. Out of the 73 recommendations, quite a lot of them actually focus their attention on the retail customer who actually uses the payment systems at the end of the line. There are also others in the value chain, such as the operators, including the regulator and the government. So the committee had actually given, as you rightly indicated, 73 odd recommendations. Majority of them which have an implication or a positive impact on the individual citizen of the country. Some of them which are suggestions for the regulator to improve, some of them which are for the government, and of course some of them for the entire industry to take care. It gives me satisfaction to say that nearly 65 to 70% of these recommendations are at various stages of fruition. Some of them have even been completed fully. Since Krishna Kumar asked about what is it that have a direct impact in these times of challenge today, two broad areas are those which I think would classify under this current situation. The first one, which, like the name says, deepening of digital payments, the committee had set up an ambitious target of achieving a large migration of transactions from hitherto paper and other modes to electronic and digital modes. So quite a lot of steps have been taken in that direction, and that is something which has been achieved. So more than talking about numbers, the facilitation to see that this is achieved is what is more important now. So
Absolutely.
One of the things that maybe all of you will be aware is the Indian retail payment space is characterized by a large number of payment systems, most of which are available for the common man to use at any point of time. The introduction of the UPI, or the Unified Payment Interface, as a platform a few years ago changed the entire thing, and multiple options are available today. So that was something which was available, but from the regulator, from the Reserve Bank of India, which also provides payment facilitation, there were two key systems which provided settlement finality. One was the real-time gross settlement system. The other one was the National Electronic Funds Transfer, or the NEFT. One of the major changes that has been done with effect from the 16th of December 2019, was 2 months prior to, or 3 months prior to this lockdown, was that that system is available now on a 24/7 basis, which means that funds transfers can be done with settlement finality in the central bank's books of account, happening on 24/7 basis. When I say 24/7, all days of the year, including any holiday notified by any state government or the central government as a holiday, which means now we have a retail payment system. Of course, UPI and other systems which are operated, or card systems, etc., are also available 24/7. But the difference here is that perhaps for the first time, there is settlement which is happening in the central bank's books of accounts, which is final and full and final, and not attracted by any law of the land for being reversed, available on 24/7 basis. I will talk about this a little later during the presentation, but the impact of that is not only for payment systems, but for banking as a whole. And maybe that is a forerunner to 24/7 banking in India as well. So that is one major thing which I thought will be relevant as far as the Nandan Nelikini Committee or the Digital Deepening Committee is concerned. One small other point which will give a little bit of cheer to the industry is that there was a recommendation to actually provide some finance for the infrastructure for the electronic or the digital payments, like providing financial support to those who are going to set up physical infrastructure. Now, although digital payment systems require infrastructure at the end of the customer, but there are certain digital infrastructures or electronic infrastructures, like at the point of sale, the terminals held in merchants, like shops, etc., the ATMs, etc. So there also the recommendation was, can the government or the regulator try to step in this area, because the industry is under pressure as far as money is concerned. And the Reserve Bank has committed to provide a substantial amount of money this year for improving the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure. Because although we are talking about digital, we do also need physical infrastructure. So this will give a lot of cheer to the participants who right now are bent on actually their balance sheets are bent by saying that a lot of capital expenditure is happening. Some relief will be there. I thought these two are the ones which will have direct impact now.
Thank you, sir. That is good to put the perspective and to kind of figure out where we are in these difficult times. So our standard operating procedures apply for question and answers. Put in your questions in the Q&A box or raise a hand and we will try to get you across to Ganesh sir to ask him a question directly. Though Sri Ganesh Kumar doesn't need introduction, I would like to point out that Ganesh sir was instrumental in introducing MICR-based check processing, RTS check, truncation, and other electronic data exchange initiatives. I mean, these are like, such brilliant initiatives that we all have witnessed. These payment systems have made our lives much more easier, right? Today we are much more easier and comfortable. they have assured in modern payment systems like CTS. But Ganesh sir, ye dil mange more. When I can get most things done in the control of my home, like ordering groceries, booking a cab, airline, or a train ticket, and now even a bus ticket, why is it that I still have to visit the branch or kiosk to deposit my check?
Okay, right, Krishna Kumar. That's a very topical and valid point. Gives me, I'll take half a minute in trying to actually build up the scenario. Since you said that we have to visit a branch to actually deposit a check, somehow my dream or my vision would be that can we actually think about not having a check at all. In fact, Krishna Kumar did give an introduction that I had a role to play in introduction of MICR. MICR is magnetic ink character recognition technology, which is where what is used for actually recognizing what is written in a check by a machine. In fact, this was done almost 3 decades ago. I was much more young, had more hair, and the light will not be glaring as it is for some of you. At that point of time, in fact, I could never dream that something which is handwritten by a person can be read by a machine. Of course, today things are much different. And at that point of time, we had a technology, which was this technology, where possibly we could read, we could make a machine read these things. So these machines were actually state of the art in the late 1980s and the 1990s. Of course, these machines had to be brought in from foreign countries. Today, most of the technologies are being developed in the country, which is a big satisfaction for all of us. So there, again, it was something which was unbelievable that a check could be read at a fast rate, and the rate which was there at that point of time was actually 60 checks per second. Now, when I just flick like this, 60 checks are read by the machine. Now, that was basically to provide help and succor to the bankers, that the checks which are issued by customers are all processed quickly without much manual intervention, and that the accounting was actually more accurate. Reconciliation was a nightmare those days. From there on, the journey has been one of trying to go not in incremental jerks, but to go in leaps and bounds. And it gives a lot of satisfaction today to say, at a point in time when we had 100% of the transactions, payment transactions in the country happening through checks, I'm talking of the beginning 90s, today, the volume of checks has come down to a minuscule level, although the numbers are high, in terms of total value, represents less than 10%. So I dream of a day when we don't have a check at all, and therefore there's no need to go for a bank. Anyway, but that's one portion. But the more important portion is, can I do banking transactions? I'm not talking with reference to payments alone, but can I do banking transactions sitting in the comfort of my home or in my office if I were a corporate customer, or when I'm traveling, let's say in my car or my train or flight, whatever, when normalcy comes back, and do banking transactions, more so payment transactions? The answer is a big yes, it can be done. In fact, if I were to go a little bit into science fiction, I would even think that why should I even do a transaction? I should possibly be able to think that I want to pay Krishna Kumar 100 rupees, and my mind should be able to be read by a machine. Maybe we can have a different form of artificial intelligence coming in, maybe by seeing eyeball movement, seeing what is in front of the screen. Maybe I have done an order of, let's say, through Amazon or through Grofers or something, and it tells me that I have to pay 300 rupees. And if my eyeball goes today, I can tell you, 30 years ago, one couldn't think that we can have a touch screen.
Yes,
10 years
correct.
ago, one couldn't think that you could have an authentication based on a touch or a voice-based or an audio-based authentication. Yes. I think the future is going to be, again, based on science fiction, is that using big data, intelligence, artificial intelligence, and other scientific algorithms, possibly when I have a screen in front of me, and the screen is going to be a virtual screen. I don't know how many of you have seen the TED Talks, and even a decade earlier it was said that the current screens will sooner or later go away, and possibly my hand may be the screen on which, the medium on which the screen will come, or the wall in front of me, or even just a person's face when I'm talking to them. Anyway, that's going too far. But when I have, let's say, made the order in Amazon, and let's say that it tells me pay 390 rupees, if my eyeball contact goes to that point of 390 rupees and I wink or I give an indication that I'm ready to pay, the instruction will be taken by the IT system or the screen which is in front of me to say that, yes, I have indeed authorized this transaction, and that on the back end, it goes to my bank or to wherever I have my account or to my digital transaction facility. And there is a non-repudiation based authentication factor which comes in, which also today, the moment I say a second factor authentication, people standard think about a one-time password or a PIN or a thumb impression, etc. The future, I envisage, is going to be something different. It could be something which is there with me, which I own, which cannot be counterfeited. Maybe the iris in my eye, maybe the way my eyelids close and open, or the way I use my lips when I talk, or the inhaling that I do, or something which may be something totally different, even in the form of genome mapping based on my skin, which I am showing, etc. So that may happen, and that will ensure that the transaction is not only actually initiated, but also authenticated, in which case, to answer Krishna Kumar's question, I don't have to visit a bank branch at all. But having said that, I should also hasten to add that the Indian psyche is that we would always like to have touch and feel. I think I said about this last time, and I always tell, when we go to a museum, and the museum has a lot of artifacts, good paintings, etc., there will be a board which will say, do not touch. And the Indian psyche is, the first thing we do is cut across all levels and ages. The first thing we do is touch. So we like to touch and feel. I do not know the outcome of what's going to happen after COVID, when we are going to go away from touch and feel, but possibly we would like to have somebody with whom we get a reassurance that my funds are safe, my payment goes through in a safe manner. And therefore, while I do see the birth and dawn and growth of a digital transaction without having to leave the comforts of wherever I am, but I still feel that banks as a community, banks as a business, banks as a brick and mortar institution for the Indian ordinary citizen will still continue to exist. They may not do the type of payments transactions that we are doing now. Maybe the teller counter will go away into oblivion. Maybe the type of payment transactions that we'll do will change, but banks may be there. So to answer your specific question, I think in the future, may not be in the near term, but at least in the medium and the long term, we will be moving away towards more and more, if I can use a word, electronification or digitization of payment transactions without having to have a medium or a bank branch. But for the safety and security, the bank will still be there. And if there is some problem, something has gone wrong, we still know whom to talk to and get it rectified.
True, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think, yes, there was this definitely that banks will be there. So that's, of course, there. Just that, I just wanted to kind of tick your brains as to what else is coming up, because you have done so much of electronic initiatives. So, that will be a great thing. And I think some of the things that you talked about, which were like, which were never thought about, are happening. So, so if you see the sci-fi movies, they do happen. So, these are like very uncertain times. And this pandemic is something that's hit us very badly across all businesses, across, every industry. And, it's been tough going for many, and it's going to be tough going for many as the days go by, despite the, despite lockdown maybe made more liberal. But in the last one decade, I think sound policies and real-time payment infrastructure have really helped India, and that has stayed, good in these days also. We have been able to gain leadership position in the world. Can you please give a brief assessment of the state of payment system in India as it exists today?
Okay, thanks, Krishna Kumar. Again, to use a phrase which I used a little earlier, gives a lot of satisfaction when we go out to the rest of the parts of the world and people look at us with awe, look at us with admiration and say, well, you're from India where payment systems are of this type, which means if we have a curve which goes up, possibly we are at the plateau, the top of the curve, compared to many other countries in the world. We have the largest volume of payments happening on an almost real-time basis. Something which is unheard of even in some of the advanced countries, either in the European or in the American subcontinent. So that is one thing which has really put us in good stead. Second, the cost per transaction, very similar to the mobile telephony costs. I know this is not something which is very comfortable for payment companies to say that we need more revenue, but then the cost per transaction, I'm talking of cost and I'm not talking about price, the cost per payment transaction in India is possibly amongst the lowest in most of the countries of the world. Of course, that doesn't allow us to be complacent, but then anyway, I'll come to that a little later. So if one were to examine the payment systems in the country today, compared to what it was even just a decade ago, I think we are far ahead of the curve compared to many other countries. But then that doesn't give us any solace that we can be complacent. We need to be still growing. And we need to be growing to such an extent that we need to give customer convenience, customer confidence, and customer comfort, all C's in these areas. And if that is what has to be done, then we need to keep our innovation, our initiative, and our intellect continuously going at all 60 or even 360-degree openness, so that we achieve more new milestones. Anyway, that is philosophy. But in terms of the actual brass tacks, the systems that we have, whether it is a digital payment system or even the traditional checks that are there, from a time period when a check used to take an average of a week for being realized to a check realized maximum within a day today, although it's not the best form of funds transfer, to a digital transaction which can happen within seconds with settlement finality, which is the RTGS, at a very low cost. But more important than all this is our return rate or reject rate and the rate of failures. Again, the lowest in the world. And the last point which I wanted to say is that our systems have been perceived to be relatively safe and secure, because in a digital world, safety and security is only as good as the weakest link. It gives me great satisfaction to say that even the smallest bank, it could be just a single branch cooperative bank, which is part of the payments chain, also having a very high level of safety and security as far as digital transactions are concerned. So gives me a lot of reassurance that we have come a long way. Of course, there is still a long way to go. So compared to the rest of the world, we are fairly ahead. But again, that brings us a bigger challenge. We have to continue to maintain this lead, and to do that, what we can do is what we can discuss maybe a little later.
Excellent, sir. I think I think that's great to hear from you that we are from a cost point of view, we are perhaps the lowest in the world, and even our rejection rates are lowest in the world. I think that's really heartening to know, because it's such a lot of transactions we still are there. So today this discussion will continue, and I think there is a lot of interest already, and this is like many would want to ask you questions. So I want to kind of start or open up a little bit earlier than normally I do. So can I request Mayur Shetty from Times Group to unmute and ask your question directly to Sir Ganesh, sir?
Just one, Krishna Kumar, and for all the other members of the audience, it's great being with you. But just the usual standard the condition is that the views that I tell now are my own and do not necessarily represent the Reserve Bank of India. So don't get it that this is a formal view on that. But this will help everybody in going ahead. So I just thought to say that, and then over to Mike.
That's a great disclaimer. Thank you, sir. We understand that, sir.
Understood, sir. Yes. So I had two questions. They were actually from the current context of the lockdown. The first was taking forward from where Mr. Krishna Kumar said that why not truncate checks? Why deposit checks in the branch at all? So like we hear about in the US where they allow customers to do self-truncation, take an image of the check and send it for clearing. And in the current context, this is an issue because the bank clerks have to handle the checks, and also like the clearing takes time. So what stops India from adopting that kind of self-truncation, app-based check truncation? And my second question is also in the context of digital payments. One of the ideas behind digital payment was that it would help in formalization of the economy. And during this lockdown, we have seen one of the problems that the government was facing was that of migrant workers, identifying people who are affected, who are outside the state. So could digital payments be a solution by insisting that people make payments to service providers using digital platforms? Would that help in identifying those faceless workers and bring them as part of mainstream labor force, where they could be identified so that government benefits can be transferred? Two separate questions.
Right. Thanks, Mayur. Two questions. Both are really relevant. I might take a little longer than possibly what you expect, but then that's only to give the correct perspective. The check truncation, as it is understood in the US, is not exactly the way check truncation happens in India. So there is an app-based check truncation. In fact, maybe you'll be aware that in the US, checks have to be printed by the customer. Banks don't print and give checks to the customer. Customers print their own checks, and it is legal in US to print the checks the way they want. Of course, banks do give the format and other things, but they can, and it's perfectly legal to take a piece of paper and write a check on that and send it across, and the bank will have to honor it. In India, that's slightly different because checks do come under the Negotiable Instruments Act, and therefore checks need to be in a particular format, in a particular manner, have certain particular information which make it legally tenable. One of the points that maybe it'll be good to note is that there are a lot of cases of checks bouncing on account of various reasons, including unavailability of funds. It's taken a long time for the government to amend the act and even say that issuing a check without funds is a criminal offense, provided it is actually proven within 30 days or whatever. Anyway, instead of going into the legal points, certainly what you said is feasible, eminently feasible. You can have an app-based check truncation system work. But then look at what all I have to do. If Ganesh has to issue a check to Mayur, Ganesh has to write a check. Maybe Ganesh has to scan it, so he needs a scanner. Maybe today, of course, most of the smartphones have a scanner, but think about the normal common man who has a feature phone who doesn't have these capabilities. He has to scan that check, maybe he even needs to have a phone which is capable of downloading an app, send it across to Mayur through a communication link, which of course today is available. And then Mayur will have to actually scan it once again and send it to his banker, which in turn will do an electronic check truncation, which is available today in the country. A better method than that will be, which is where the Reserve Bank, which is where I think the entire economy is heading towards, is instead of Mayur demanding money from Ganesh, which is a debit pull transaction, will be for Mayur to tell Ganesh, look, you owe me 100 rupees, give me 100 rupees. So Ganesh does a credit push instead of a debit pull, which is more safe, has better security features, and that what I do, I don't write a check at all. I only get the details of your account number or your card number or whatever be the payment device, the instrument through which the money has to go in. And then I push the transaction through my device, which could even be a feature phone, which means this can work across the multiple population, different geographical terrain of the country, and the costs will be lower. So my view would be, instead of trying to look at check truncation, because checks, I feel it's time that they have to act, they've outlived their lives. Let's move over to a digital debit push scenario, a credit push scenario, which will help in ensuring that the system is more safe, more secure, instantaneous, and also cost effective and efficient. So I think that will be a better method, and that's the direction to which we are moving. And the second question of yours has an answer to that. Yes, movement of funds digitally. In fact, let's think about the scenario where, let us assume the government to transfer the money which is given to the migrants. If the government were to issue so many checks, first, ensuring that the checks reach the migrant wherever he is a challenge. Second, the migrant to find a bank branch to go and deposit the check and then get it realized and get the money is another time-taking process. So the easier thing there, which is what the government is doing, is that they have the account number. Maybe it is through the Jandan, through the Aadhaar, or through whichever method it is. They know that this is the account of the migrant. And once they know this is the account of the migrant, the money is pushed, again, a credit push transfer from the account of the government, either with the Reserve Bank or any commercial bank, and goes to the account of the migrant almost instantaneously. This results in better funds management and availability of money to the migrant at the point when he really requires it. The last point about yours is, yes, there is really a lot of benefit in terms of digital transactions. There is trackability, there is traceability. This is something that everybody should welcome. But then there is also the Indian psyche which says that why should people track the transactions that are there? So maybe it will take a little more time for people to understand and say that this tracking is done by the bank, which anyway knows, even if it is a check-based transaction, and therefore they need not worry about the trackability. So the future, I would suggest, is let's forget about paper-based movements, whether it is check demand drafts, whatever it is, and let's try to go in for digital transactions, which are safe.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful this thing, and I like the your thought on saying that checks perhaps may have outlived their life. Okay, and I think we should look at something alternative, because this has been going on for long. So it will take time. I think digital is changing it, but I think it will still be there, and it will take some time. So coming back to our topic, which is on payments and in this period of COVID, so the world has changed forever after the outbreak of coronavirus disease, right? And it's changed almost everything. It's actually on a rampage right now. Does it pose questions to the relevance of RBI's vision about payment and settlement system in India?
Yes, the answer is yes and no. Yes, it does pose questions. Why I said no, and I'll try to answer the no first and then move over to the yes.
Yes.
The no is that the RBI's vision, which was published, if I may say, a couple of years ago, and has a few more months of true life remaining as well. It didn't know anything about Corona, all right, but the entire vision was based on multiple E's. I spoke about C's. This is based on multiple E's, and it was ease of use, multiple things on ease. We'll talk about that a little later. So the thrust was more on making it safe, secure, easy, efficient, and more digital. Today in the pandemic times, whether it is on account of the lockdown or whether or not on account of the fear that there could be transmission happening, digital seems to have been the one which has come to stay. And therefore, to that extent, I say that no, because most of what has been given in the vision document is actually meeting the requirements of whatever has happened during this troubling times. The yes portion is, yes, quite a lot of things need to be done from the vision perspective. Why, instead of boring everybody by talking everything about the vision, I would talk about two major things. One is the RBI's vision, again, much similar to the Nandan Nilekani committee that we spoke about in the beginning of today's session. It had raised, or it had actually put in goalposts of ambitious volumes of transactions happening digitally. I think there is a need now to increase those statistical thresholds much higher. Not in terms of absolute volumes, because it's going to take substantial amount of time before the entire economy comes out of the Corona impact and comes back to business as normal. But that's in terms of volumes of transactions. But in terms of value of transactions, because GDP is going to be there, we will not talk about whether there's going to be a growth, what's going to be the growth or negative, whatever. But then there is going to be large volumes of transactions which are happening. In fact, we are witnessing even large values moving across even today. The entire funds transfers which are happening for the DBT, for what the government is giving to the migrants and to all the others, other than very small volume, most of it is happening digitally. So therefore, there is a need to increase the threshold for the digital the threshold for the value of the digital transactions in absolute numbers. But that the most important point is not just the number, but to see that the infrastructure, the systems, the capabilities, the safety and security are all available. So the vision needs to be tweaked. It's already provided for, to ensure that all the participants in the chain augment their systems, because see, today it's actually a lull. If I may just draw a comparison to what happened during demonetization in 2016, the digital volume of transactions grew up like anything. But once the effects of demonetization paled down, this also came. While it came down, but the growth levels have been substantially growing up. So, but in the case of the digital transactions which are happening today, I feel this is what I think most of the people who have been now exposed to digital transactions, like paying electricity bills or paying even the maid servant, although the maid servant doesn't come home now, but you pay her account electronically and she's able to transfer the money to her panwala or baji wali. So people have got used to it, and since people have got used to it, it will continue. So one of the things that all of us need to do, which is where the art-based vision will be tweaked a little bit, is to ensure that the infrastructural requirements for these are augmented.
Yes.
Because post-corona, we need to have, if not the same levels, even better levels of service.
Absolutely.
So that is
Absolutely.
and the second is the need to provide newer types of systems. In fact, the first question that you asked, instead of talking about why to visit a branch for dropping a check, I would say, like I said earlier, newer methods of authentication and newer methods of ensuring that my money goes out. Maybe I can ask a question, and I will leave it for the innovators who are listening to me to say, I might have a credit card, but do I need a physical credit card? Can I not have a virtual identity which says that this is Ganesh Kumar? His credit worthiness is, let's say, 75,000 rupees or 1 lakh or 3 lakhs, whatever, which is the limit in the credit card today. And if that is available virtually, Mayur will bear me out, a lot of frauds which happen on account of skimming and phishing, which goes by people capturing the account details or the credit card details, CVV, etc., can all go away. So here is a huge potential for the innovators to come out with new innovative methods which give the same type of service but with a newer delivery mechanism.
Yeah. Okay.
So to sum up, these are the new changes that will come, and I'm sure that as a regulator, they will be providing a facilitatory role, which is what the Reserve Bank has been doing all the years, and I'm sure it will continue to provide support for these type of initiatives. I'm sure most of you must have heard about the sandbox, the regulatory sandbox initiatives of the Reserve Bank, and the first set of sandbox experiments were related to the payment space. So these type of initiatives, if they come, they can be put through the sandbox, quick implementation. It could be through tests and pilots in the initial stages. But if we can do it like the UPI, which I spoke about, which revolutionizes the retail payment system in the country, and like NEFT, which is 24/7, these are the things which are going to put India not on the top of the map, but as a leader for all other countries, including the so-called developed countries, also to follow us in the payment system space.
Excellent, sir. Excellent. Thank you very much, sir. I think that was good. And I think the takeaway is that let's look at new innovative methods in the days to come. And I think we will look at that. So I have another call coming directly to you, sir. Mr. Matthew George is going to ask you a question. Mr. George, can you unmute and please introduce yourself before you ask the question, please?
So I'm Matthew George, Associate Dean with Amity Business School, Cochin.
Okay.
No, my question is very simple. The Ganesh sir was talking about the transaction cost, per transaction cost, that India is continuing to have, which is among the lowest in the world. Is it in terms of number of transactions or is it in terms of value?
Okay. Thanks, Matthew, for the point. It is basically the reference that I had was basically with reference to a transaction, irrespective of its value, because in a digital or an electronic transaction, whether I send across 1 rupee or 1 million rupees, the costs are more or less the same. But just maybe I'll have to explain a little bit. What I meant by cost is that the cost for transaction is very low, but it is not necessarily reflected in the price which the customer pays. There are many customers who don't pay, so there is a segmentation which is there in the industry today. So maybe this is another area where we'll have to think about, because post-COVID, there's going to be a lot of pressure. We discussed about it in the last session as well. There's going to be a lot of pressure on the margins. There's going to be a lot of demand for saying that transactions have to be cheaper. There's an option available where, since costs are less, we need to actually ensure that we pass it on to our customers. I'm not saying pass on the entire benefits, but at least some portion which pass on, which will result in larger volumes. And therefore, companies or service providers can continue to make their profits. And at the same time, customers are induced to do transactions this way. That's one. Second is, again, I gave this example in the previous session as well. We may also have to think about payment systems in terms of not charging directly. I gave the example of the newspaper in the previous session, where I said that the cost of the newsprint itself will be more than the price that I pay for the newspaper. Let's say Times of India, since Mayur was the one who asked the question earlier to me. Times of India, if I pay 7 rupees, the cost of the paper itself will be much more than 7 rupees. So they are getting it through cross-subsidization or whatever name you call it, through possibly advertisements, through other methods. maybe we'll have to look at payment systems that way and look at customer profitability. I'm talking of banks and other payment system providers, rather than look at transaction profitability. That will help the country to grow ahead.
Thank you.
I hope I clarified your question, Matthew.
Thank you, Ganesh sir, and thank you, Mr. George, for asking a good question out there. So, sir, coming back to our discussion on the COVID and the payments, so what, according to you, are the immediate priorities of Indian payment systems in the wake of this global pandemic?
Okay, I've already given certain hints.
Yes.
2 points I gave earlier. One was I said that the volumes are going to go up, and therefore we should have our systems scale up to that increasing volumes. It may not happen on day one, but over a period of time, certainly it's going to happen. And that's what some of the forecasts by some of the large forecasters are also indicating. The second point, which I actually said on that, is that to do that, you need to actually have more systems from an IT or an ICT, information and communication technologies perspective. Those of my friends and parts of the audience who are in that space, please try to work on those. The third area which I thought we need to actually concentrate on is safety and security. There's been a large number of security incidents. I don't want to call them frauds because people will actually get a little more panic in an already panic-stricken area. A lot of frauds are happening in the payment space or in the banking space in general. People are trying, and that's what it is. When they find that there are newer methods of technologies coming in, newer methods of delivery mechanisms coming in, newer crooks are also coming in. So we need to actually tighten up the safety and the security level. So that's the third area. So those who are in the safety, security, IS audit or security audit, system audit, etc., there's a good future for them. So that's something that we need to actually build up. And the fourth one is actually customer awareness and education. Because the pace with which these newer systems, products, services are going to come is going to be faster than what we have been hitherto witnessing. And like we have some of these educational channels which are now teaching students, mostly in college and school, I think we also need to bombard ordinary citizens on educating them about the newer technologies that we are giving. It is not enough just that we build in the new technologies, demonstrate it to the bankers, demonstrate it to the payment system providers, demonstrate it to the Reserve Bank and the government and start off. We need to also bring the customers on board. And to bring customers on board, it is very easy, small, quick, not more than half a minute or 2-liners which explain what the new system is. I think there is a huge opportunity here again. So what I wanted to actually say is these are the new challenges that are going to come to us. And for all these challenges, there are new opportunities. Maybe they do not actually conform to the old style of business that we were doing. But some of those of us who are finding that the old school of business is actually going off and we are not going to be in that line of business, here are opportunities, new areas. Don't require so much of money in capital deployment, but require a lot of human capital, intelligence, which India is famous for. And I'm sure these are things that we need to address right now itself, because post-COVID, we won't have the time. So let's start from now on and see that we achieve.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think you made a right point that it's not about understanding about the technology or adopting new things, but it's also the awareness that we need to bring with people or our own employees, our own customers. And that's very important. And I think that also kind of highlights that there is a lot more that a lot of academies can do to bring about this transition. And I think people awareness will bring about a transition, sir. So I have a question for you, sir, from Mr. Deepankar Sharma of RBL Bank. He poses a question on Bank 4.0, the new version of Bank, which means 4.0, he means that banking everywhere, but never at a bank, okay? So his question is, what do you think about Bank 4.0? Is it relevant for Indian environment? Okay.
Good, Deepankar. Just a small, I've been too serious all along. I don't know from where it became 4.0. That means we have completed 3.0. Or I do not know whether it is going to be 3.0 moving on into 3.1 or 3.2. But anyway, jokes apart, yes, it has to be banking everywhere. Now, that's too big a question, and I don't think I can answer that in the time that's available to me. And since our focus is going to be more on payments, let me relate it just to payments everywhere, and you can extrapolate it to banking everywhere in due course of time. So, and I think I made a small mention about that. It looked like sci-fi. Those of you who had seen the movie Contagion, I don't know how many of you have seen it, it's available in Netflix and in Amazon, you will find stark similarities of what's happening in the COVID or the coronavirus reality today to the film which was made more than 2 years ago, including the name of the city from where in the movie it was supposed to have started anyway. I don't know whether it was just coincidence or whether it is actually something which was designed. But the point is, whatever we are now thinking about. So when I said that the e-commerce transaction which I did on Amazon, using an eyeball based inclination, I could do the payment. Looks like just imagination right now. It may not happen 100% the same way. I guess that banking 4.0 may possibly say in the first level, yes, when I close my eyelid or shut my eyelid on that 390 rupees, which I said, maybe Amazon will take it as the transaction is complete. Maybe banking 4.1 or 4.2, there will be an interconnect of Amazon to the bank, which is not there on real time today. And the bank will send a confirmation to Amazon saying, Ganesh Kumar has 4,000 rupees in his account, so 399 is not a problem. And maybe it will get a confirmation, which is the first factor of authentication, not the way today it is happening. And the second factor is the second time I get a message parallelly, which I can see, possibly like a picture-in-picture, I get a message in one bottom of the screen, which shows me the Amazon delivery cart. It says that there is 4,000 rupees in your account, 390 has to be debited. Are you agree? So I just move my eye contact from the box which has 390 rupees to this, because it comes as a new notification. And if I say yes, I shake my head or nod my head, positive or negative. There can be multiple algorithms which can work out. That means it's an authentication to my bank saying, yes, indeed, I have made the pay, I am authorizing the payment. And there is no need for any other movement to happen. So it is banking everywhere happening, banking through my mobile or through, as I said, whichever device I have, it could be my hand or wherever the virtual screen is there. And that will answer Dipankar's point that at least it will become payments everywhere. I'll give one more example and then I'll just stop off. Let's assume I am the migrant labor who is actually trudging home. I don't want it to happen, but suppose I am trudging home and I've reached a place where there is, let us say, I'm able to get a good breakfast for me and my family. And let's say there is a small a code. It could be the barcode or it could be the usual QR code. I need to only see the code, and let's say I have an instrument with me. It could be my own phone, or it could be any other device that I have. I'm assuming because he's actually a migrant who doesn't have any instruments with him. It could even be my iris, based on which it is connected to my Aadhaar, and it does a validation, says it is indeed Ganesh Kumar, and authorizes the transaction. So without me having to actually pass on the money transaction or do a settlement, the breakfast that I get for me and my family is settled, and the dabawala gives me the food. Again, looks like a dream now, looks imaginative now, but I think it will happen. May not be exactly in the same form, it may be mutated into some other form, but it will happen. This is my vision.
Yes, that's wonderful. I think exciting days to come if those kind of things can happen by look of by just looking at it and thinking that this is what I want to pay, and that actually it happens. But you never know, things do happen. What we thought would never happen 10 years ago is actually happening, right? So things do change, and let's hope for the better. So I have another question directly coming to you, sir, from Mr. Tripathi. Tripathi is the editor of ETV Online. Mr. Tripathi, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ganesh Kumar.
Yeah, good afternoon, Tripathi. Please go ahead.
Sir, I just wanted to know what kind of new cyber threats you have noticed during this period of lockdown. Because cyber security was a big concern, and with regard to payment security also. So at IFTAS, what kind of threats are new threats you have noticed, and what are the measures that you have taken?
Okay, let me say, I'll break your question into two parts. If it is cyber threats, threats are there. There are multiple types of threats, but unless the threat becomes a reality, you can't say that the threat has materialized. Okay, so threats are multiple. There can be many. People see, one of the biggest challenges in the Corona COVID time is people masquerading and going. People means I'm not meaning physical people. People who are actually the thieves, the cyber stalkers, the cyber thieves, the cyber whoever does things negatively in the cyber world. They are the ones who are actually trying novel methods. And the novel method, in fact, I can just give you an example. Of course, this is not materialized, but it's a threat. Let us assume that I've got a simple WhatsApp forward which comes to me saying that, look, this is the new thing that has been found out in the COVID scenario. It's got nothing to do with payments. It says that, and I will just give an example, but that's not true. It says that masks are ineffective in certain situations. Let's assume that that is a message that I get. And it also has a link which I have to simply click to see, and there will be typically be a small video or a presentation which will actually demonstrate whether the mask was effective or not. It could be a plagiarized one, or it could be a genuine video as well. Now, the moment that video comes in, okay, the thing which is happening is that I see the video to see the effectiveness of the mask. But when I open the video, slowly a stealth small program comes in, goes into my SMS area. And typically, most of us use digital transactions. And if I get an SMS confirmation, the SMS confirmation says that I have done a transaction on this particular day. And this is, some banks do it, this is my balance. So immediately it goes, because all of us, without realizing, when we install new programs, WhatsApp as well, we say give permission for all these things. So it enters into the SMS area of my mobile, finds out that there is a balance in this, and the cyber stalker now comes with an attractive message. Most of the time, these are gullible people who come in saying that this much of money I have won, and to do that, I have to pay a small amount of money as a commission or something of that kind. Fortunately, what I wanted to say was that this was something which has not happened in the past, at least as far as mobile is concerned. So I just gave you one example. Fortunately, as I said, this has not rooted, it has not impacted anything. But the way people are thinking about, just like you have experts in this area who are actually the malified people, they also have no other work. Their minds are also, their brains are also working overtime. They can come out with newer methods. So the mantra towards all that is cautious. If you find that, be cautious. And if you find that something is too good to be true, 99.9% it is not. Correct. Which is something which is an education that we have.
Have you taken, this is my follow-up question, have you taken any concrete measures during the COVID lockdown period to prevent this kind of frauds on the payment system?
I couldn't get you. Have you taken any countries means?
Any concrete steps during the lockdown period to prevent this kind of attacks on the payment system?
No, but you see, one of the things is that I gave you certain examples just for your understanding. Typically, nobody will publish what is the type of attack that happens and how to prevent it. What will happen is, after the prevention has been made, it will come in the form of a standard or a standard operating procedure to be done. So most countries, including us, it is almost on a daily basis we come out, and this is part of the IT and the cybersecurity area, is to say these are the changes that you have to do. It'll be very difficult to actually say this has been done on account of what has come in the Corona period, or this is something which has come on account of an earlier period. Very difficult to do. But yes, a lot of improvements are going on in the cybersecurity area. I wouldn't say cybersecurity, in the security space for digital transactions. We are also doing a lot. There are many countries which learn from us. We learn from other countries. So I wouldn't venture to try to say whether it is on account of somebody that we are doing or not. The entire cyberspace, which is one for the entire world, encountering events, if somebody has found a solution and it works, everybody improves it. It is like a security patch which is uploaded on a Windows platform, if you're using Windows, or on an Android platform. One doesn't know why it is put, but only one knows that it is required. So that's what we try to do. And just to answer your last point, typically the world would not actually detail the type of incidents that happen, because people generally get upset, they get panic driven if they learn the nitty-gritties, and this is not the right time to do it. So after things become normal, maybe there will be, including most of the security companies will try to come out and say, these are the type of events that will come and you try to do it.
Okay, sir, I get your point. I have one last question because you represent one of the RBI subsidiaries. I just wanted to know what is happening in case of cryptocurrencies, because on the EPS platform itself on these debates, lot many people are curious about the cryptocurrency. What is thinking within the RBI with regard to cryptocurrency?
Oh, well, I think, Tripati, I don't think this is a platform where I can say what is the RBI's thinking. Because the RBI's thinking will be announced by the RBI's spokesperson. I know it's an official answer, but I can try to tell you, cryptocurrency has its own challenges and has its own advantages. I think I've been telling this even earlier. The technology behind the cryptocurrencies, which is blockchain, is a wonderful technology. We are using it in multiple platforms other than in cryptocurrency. We'll have to use it. There is huge potential for it. We'll continue to use it. If you talk about cryptocurrency as a currency for settlement of payment transactions, well, that has to pass the muster of being equal to legal tender. Today, that's not the position. If it is to be used as, in fact, the word itself is not fully clear much across the world because it is not really currency issued by the central bank. And therefore, the central bank will only give, central bank or regulator, whoever it is across different jurisdictions, will only give instructions, guidelines, advice to people to be cautious. If and when the central bank decides that this is the right time to give anything, the central bank will announce. So I don't think, pardon me for it, but I don't think we can give a clear answer at in this platform. Sorry for that.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So good to hear that, and I hope, Mr. Tripathi, your questions have been answered. Like he said, consumers have to be aware and be alert to prevent a cyber crime. Don't fall prey to freebies, because there is no such thing as free lunch, as they say. So I think that's the message that Ganesh sir is giving. Very important, sir. We are almost to the end. I'll just take a couple of more minutes of your time, sir, because we heard a lot about platformification. Okay, and a lot of subject matter experts in this forum have also come up and spoken about it. And since there are many people who are participating in this call who are from the fintech industry, can you give us some examples of how this will enable banks to adopt new business models?
Right. Since this is again related to payments and the payment systems, I will restrict it to that area. About banks in general, we can talk it at a different point in time.
Correct.
In fact, if I can backtrack, let's say 3 or 4 years, there used to be a general feeling that payment systems are bank driven and others are not allowed. Why payment systems are bank driven is because ultimately the money has to go from an account, and an account is something which is maintained in a bank, whichever be the form, whether it is a savings bank account, or credit card, whatever it is. So my point will be that the bank or the bank account is a platform. So if there is a service provider, it could be a startup or it could be an established payment system organization or a company. They could use that platform and build up something on it. I think I mentioned about it in the last session as well. 10 years or 20 years ago, nobody in India at least thought that an airport can become a shopping mall.
Absolutely.
Airport was a platform where planes come, planes take off. At best, people come so there can be some eyeballs in the form of advertisements. Nothing more was there. You could have a coffee shop and nothing more. But today, in fact, sometimes I wonder why airports have to be so long for passengers to go through shopping when many of them don't shop. But that's become a big opportunity as a platform. So my suggestion here would be payment systems is now a platform. Payment systems which link to the bank is a platform. So don't compete with banks, but cooperate with banks. So this platform is available for a whole new area of products and services. So suppose somebody finds out that Ganesh Kumar uses the payments. Let's say Ganesh Kumar has a son who's studying in a college and he has to send a small amount of money every month as rent for his son's hostel. He knows that this is what is happening. Maybe there is a platform provided now, somebody who's not necessarily in the payment space, but comes out to Ganesh Kumar and says, look, it appears that there is a son of yours who's staying in a hostel. We provide, let's say, laundry services, or we provide late night lunch services. Is your son interested? Nothing with payment, but he's using that as a platform to use his product or service. Okay, today, and I will end up with this. Today, if a lot of people are moving over to Google, WhatsApp, mail systems for effecting their payment transactions, it is because they find that the platform which provides social media can also be used for payment transactions. Similarly, I am saying the platform which is there as payment systems, again, innovation, imagination, jugaad, that whatever name you call it, that has to come to play. It can be used for a whole variety of products and services. I think we need to talk about it, and therefore my usual for common the fond phrase, don't compete and compete, go together. So competition and cooperation put together, that's what we have to do. So there are huge potential, huge possibilities in the platformification of payment systems.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. As usual, sir, I mean, it's, 1 hour is just not enough, and I know even the participants want a lot of questions to ask. But we have to respect time, and we already passed the time that we have got, and we don't want to hold our guests beyond a point that we have committed. So once again, sir, we thank you very much. It was another wonderful talk. We want to kind of, have much more, and I think this time is just not enough. So I have to, take the liberty of asking you to come again, once again. There's so much to talk, so much to learn, so much to gain information from you that I would request you to come again and would like to have another round of discussion with you. Once again, Ganesh sir, from behalf of EPS and all the participants in this social media and other channels, big thank you to you for all that you have told us and all that information that we have gained. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, Krishna Kumar. Thank you to all the audiences. And if you like this, I'm not going to ask you to give a like or a thumbs up. I'm only saying if that is there, continue to join in such discussions where we'll have intellectual, thought-provoking simulations.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.